call the September 12th board meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors to order. The board welcomes all of those in attendance as well as all of those that are joining us online. Mrs. Martin, could you please report the attendance?
All board members are present except Mr. Hurst and Dr. Martin, and I believe Mr. Talent is on his way.
Yes. Also in attendance are the superintendent and the administrative cabinet. Will you please join me for the pledge of the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is our work session, one of 2 meetings per month in which we will receive most of the informational presentations as well as discuss and deliberate future decisions. There are also some action voting items required on timely issues or to meet time-restrained guidelines. Our meetings observe the requirements of the school code, legislative directives, and the original Act 84 Sunshine Law. All subsequent amendments, judicial rulings, and our district policies to the best of our understanding and ability. All agendas and related public documents are detailed, and details are posted on the website. That much said, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays or abstentions? If not, we will move on to the superintendent's comments. Dr. Z.
Thank you, Madam President. We're down to our last couple of positions to fill. It is with great pride that I welcome 2 of our candidates who will be up for approval on tonight's superintendent report. You know that we hire many teachers who have done their student teaching with us. I believe this is the first time that I have ever met someone who completed her student teaching in Australia. Catherine Forrester earned both her bachelor's degree in elementary and early childhood education and her master's degree in language and literacy with a reading specialist certification from Millersville University. In addition to working in the school district of Lancaster and Hempfield School District, she also worked in a private arena at New School of Lancaster and Sandhurst Co-op Preschool in Seattle, Washington. Catherine will be bringing her experience to our youngsters at Fritz Elementary as their reading support teacher. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. And who says teaching isn't rocket science? Kristen Weber completed a NASA STEM cohort through Immaculata University with training sessions at the NASA Goddard Space Center. She earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education from Messiah College and her master's degree in differentiated instruction from Gratz College. She's currently working towards a STEM endorsement from Millersville University. In addition to 7 years of teaching, 5th grade at Peckway Valley School District, Kristen's experience includes after-school enrichment programs, being part of the data team, summer school instructor, and being part of the district's curriculum development team. We look forward to the exciting activities Kristen will be bringing forward to our students as the elementary gifted education teacher, covering all 4 buildings. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
And time now for the updated new middle school building schedule. This is a timely update as we just completed a preliminary life safety inspection with the inspector, township representative, and various contractors. Today's inspection was focused on 2 goals. First, getting teachers and staff into the building to set up their areas in order to receive students. And secondly, to see what issues still remain in order to get temporary occupancy permit, which ensures a safe and secure environment for our teachers, staff, and learners alike. In all learning areas, to include the administrative offices, all above-grid inspections have been completed and successfully passed. These items include fire alarms and sprinklers, HVAC hookups, and electrical wiring and lighting. Plumbing also passed this inspection. Areas that still need work are primarily in the stairwell and the hanging of some doors. The glass wall and doors at the entrance of the building are also scheduled to be completed this week. For the first goal, we have been given tentative approval to have only teachers and staff in the building to set up their learning spaces. There are conditions to be met, but a schedule will be established this week to allow them into the building. For the second goal, our plan in order to ensure adequate time for compliance with the temporary occupancy permit we are going to extend the in-person instruction at the IU in the old middle school for 1 week, Tuesday, September 20th through Friday, September 23rd. This extra time will give us time to complete the open findings and should also give us time to complete the cafeteria proper so that students can eat in the actual cafeteria. Dr. Metzinger will be creating an updated schedule to be shared with the middle school and CV communities. Joining me tonight in the construction team, we walked around the building and we pointed out everything that I just talked about. So Mark or Brad, if you have any comments that you want to add to those.
Why would you defer to me, Brad? Yeah, no, it's always good how, and it's interesting how quickly things change in that building. And it's nice to see the educational pods are done. There's cleaning that needs to be done. So I'm really excited. I told Dr. Z many times tonight, I cannot wait to see those rooms come to life and see the kids in there. They're gonna be super excited to be in those spaces. So it's nice to see the educational pods done, and then it's a small list of items that need to be complete for us to get occupancy. And this is a very doable goal. We're charging forward and we're gonna get the kids in. That's it.
Yeah, I think there was great progress made in the past couple weeks. It's fantastic now that we do have that list of things that must be completed. Probably the biggest item on there is with respect to the stair treads and getting all of those within code. So that's probably the biggest work item over the next couple days, next week. But other than that, I completely agree with Mark that it's a feasible objective to meet that date.
That's the most positive I've heard you for a long time. Good to hear.
That's all I have, Madam President.
I do have a copy of the letter giving us that temporary occupation. And I'd also like to, as always, acknowledge how impressed I always am by the professional credentials of our employees. They are truly professionals and we're lucky to have all of them. And we welcome you. Are there any board comments?
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to say one thing. This past Friday was Fun Fest at Brownstown. The place was mobbed. It
I
was
heard.
so much great fun. And my favorite principal is here tonight, Dr. Graybill, who wonderfully got slimed by the children in the gym. And we had a great time, and I'm sure Dr. Graybill could speak to a little bit more, but I think it was a wonderful time.
It's a terrific event. I think they raised almost $9,000. Even if we didn't make any money, it'd be worth it just to see the community come out. So I know all the schools do those kinds of things, but yeah, appreciate the support. Excited about the CV community, so yeah.
It was really worth it when they announced the winner, and it was Dr. Graybill who won. The kids, there wasn't a boo in the audience. There was cheers galore.
Well, I had a meeting, first Friday assembly, and they were supposed to have pictures of all the teachers on the docket to get slimed or in the contest. And I found out later, they only put my picture. Kind of rigged against me, so I'm out next year.
We'll have to carry that on cheating.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anything else? I'd like to add that I was pleased to attend the first day for faculty. Dr. Z focused for them on the you belong idea, that every child must feel welcome. And my very short remarks were focused on the same thing, but for staff. This board has talked about it's important to have a good working environment, to let them know that we respect them and consider them professionals and look forward to working with them and having their input. Also, I don't usually give a plug for anything, but CVESF also gave a presentation, and I was not aware of the fact, because I'm such a tech idiot, but evidently Amazon has something called Amazon Smile, where you don't spend any money than you regularly would, but part of your purchase price goes to the charity of your choice. So those of you who are inclined to contribute, that doesn't cost you an extra penny. So I thought I'd give him an extra promo here to the board. I didn't know such a thing existed.
Just a couple things on my mind. I appreciate the work that's been done in the middle school. Just so that we're clear, the building's not going to be finished by the time the students move in. There's a lot of rough work. There's a lot of things that still need to be done that I don't know when it will be done. 6-8 months later down the line, just because I saw the middle school on Saturday, I only saw 4 people there on Saturday working. I just want to be able that we manage expectations, that some people are gonna probably be thinking they're gonna be going to a finished school when it's far from that. It'd be nice that the IU will allow us to stay until what, the week of the 19th? And then that's it, correct? Is it,
We're one more week than where we were.
so it'd be nice to have a plan just in case the building just isn't ready yet, because we have no plan B at the IU.
We don't know if we have a plan B.
Okay, we don't know if we have a plan B. I have not heard of a plan B.
Well,
I would love to know
because
the
it's
plan
just a plan. I will respond to this, and here I have the same problem. It's a matter of confidence. At every step when things changed, administration said, oh, we already have a plan for that. And when that changed, they already had the next plan sitting in the background waiting. If we release all these plans in advance, we're just going to confuse everybody. Because everyone will have read something from one of the different plans. We simply have to have the confidence that when they tell us they're ready for anything, they'll be ready. I know that's difficult. I know
Okay.
we're all frustrated. I am as frustrated as anyone.
Mr. Kelly, can I address one thing?
Sure.
Please? When we walked around on Thursday compared to when we walked around tonight, it's night and day. And I will tell you that the 2 gentlemen that walked around tonight saw completed rooms. All the panels were up on the ceilings. The hallways were cleared. Everything is ready. So when we look at the school being ready for occupancy, we're talking about when you walk in, everything to the right. We're not talking about the
Stuff to the left.
the music classroom or the gymnasium or the tech ed. That's not ready yet. But students will be safe and in the learning pods on the right side of the building.
All right.
That's all done.
And I might add that that's not new. It was always a phased opening.
Yeah, and that's not unusual. The middle school that we currently have was like that. Fritz was like that. Browns, how long do we still play games with Brownstown after we
All
got
year.
back? This is not unusual.
Okay.
I've absolutely.
It's a concern,
finalized-
that's what I'm saying.
I understand the concern.
You know,
believe me, we are all frustrated. This has been difficult
Yeah.
since the beginning when we first had to make a decision about moving forward despite COVID. Because we knew that was going to cause a lot
I
of
would have
labor problems,
Just
but,
rather delayed the opening.
well, we would have had to make that decision way back then.
We did, I
You
understand.
know, so,
If I didn't
the
say
one-
it, I don't think I'd be doing it justice, that's all.
in the rearview mirror, you may be right.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we would be today had we not pushed forward.
Okay.
Had we not, one thing we do seem to have a habit here at CV, when we make a plan, it's thought out carefully, and we have found out that if we stick to it, that's better than constantly switching courses midstream. And so far, it's worked, and I understand the frustration.
I think my problem with this plan is that it's been a delay.
Well, it's not the plan that was delayed,
Yeah.
it was the construction. And
But it's
you
a
have
plan
to-
that was delayed.
You have to remember that we have no control over construction management.
And now we're expecting kids to come in next week and we still have no control over construction management.
Well, not over the rest of the book, but as I said, this happens in all of our buildings and other schools too. The idea of 100% finished building, ready for kids to move right in, is a pipe dream that we all have.
I just
Really.
wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't voice my,
No,
Concern.
and I think it's important that we stay diligent and pay attention and not assume that it's all going to be fine without monitoring it carefully.
Okay, all right.
Okay, no, I don't disagree with you at
Okay.
all.
And Mike, let me clarify one thing. I said that was always the plan. That's not accurate. When the team found out that the full building would not be ready for the start of the school year, that's when the other plans were developed to have a phased opening. So I need to clarify that wasn't always the plan. But when we found out that the entire building wasn't gonna be ready for the start of school, that's when the phased approach began. I think too, you're right. We don't have control over the construction. But what we do have right now is a list of what must be done. And everybody has that on the team and is pushing very hard for those folks working on site to get these things done.
This has been an especially complicated.
and not saying it's not.
Starting from when we couldn't even decide if we should break ground because of COVID.
Sure.
You know, there are a lot of decisions made along the way, but I think staying the path and remembering where it is you want to end up. We moved into the current, what will be the past middle school over Christmas break. My son was one of the kids that had to move. He had the same thing. He was at Smoketown when half the building was still being under construction while they were in there. We take a lot of detours in all of our construction programs. We've been fortunate that this was not more disruptive. It easily could have been. It really could have, but we will continue to keep you updated, I'm sure.
I just think to Mike's
And we
point,
give you the right to say, I told you so.
I just think to Mike what he's trying, there's a lot of anxieties and people are,
Yes.
they just want their anxieties quelled, and I think
I
he's just
understand.
expressing the concern of a lot of people.
Oh, and that anxiety is not unfounded. I certainly get that. The ones that are handling it best are the kids. They're just happy to be in school, wherever they are, with their teachers, with their classmates.
Well, I do think that healthy perspective, like you're talking about, it's important to make sure that parents know, and when they get those walkthroughs, to say, this is the side we're focusing on. This whole side is inaccessible, like those rooms that are construction are inaccessible, it will all be safe. And that's the emphasis for that temporary occupancy.
Yeah.
Because they will not grant it unless everything has passed. So when there's questions for parents like, well, is it even safe because it's not completed building? We wouldn't get occupancy if it wasn't. Is what if there's fires? What if there's egress? What if there's emergencies? What if there has to be a lockdown? What if there's, all of those systems will be in place, ready to go. Otherwise, I wouldn't send my kid. So that's the important piece to remember is, although it feels rushed and the parents are sitting home and like, okay, yeah, it was now and now it's this. Okay, now it's another week and now it's another week. And I'm one of those parents. We have parents on the board that are attached to kids that are going through this. It's important for my peace of mind comes from knowing that as soon as that occupancy is granted, all the safeties are in place. And after seeing the pods completed, just needing to be cleaned, these kids are gonna have a really, really cool time. I'm excited to see them get in there and be able to own such a unique space. And I think that's gonna that's really gonna shine the light on a lot of this once the kids are in. And then give us the freedom to kind of focus on the other half of the building, which of course we all want it done now. And hopefully it gets done quickly, and once it is, then we'll have that complete building. But there'll be punch lists that are happening too.
Sure.
The realistic thing of kids will come home and they'll be like, Mom, that wall wasn't painted right. Yeah, it wasn't, and that
Yeah.
thing wasn't covered up right. Yeah, it wasn't, and that door, was like had a punch in it or something. There'll be some of those things that the kids will see, but
Yeah, what, how many, 6, 7, 8, that's 1,200?
About 1,000.
1,000 kids in one half of the building,
yeah.
so.
That's what it was designed for.
But it's designed to hold those kids all at that half. It was designed to hold that many educational spaces, because the other spaces are not always filled.
It's a
You can't
gym and,
count them as classrooms.
right,
I don't know if I agree that it was rushed. I think constantly having to change the plan proves we didn't rush.
Well, I'm
We
saying if
stopped-
they felt it was rushed.
Yeah, I
But you
understand.
can't rush an occupancy
Yeah,
permit.
but basically, it was constantly changed because we were being careful. We weren't fighting the inspections. What they said needed done, we agreed and we did, which is what is important. This is nothing compared to when we had kids in the building while construction and renovation was going on. And sometimes they'd come across asbestos and everything had to stop. It has been worse than this. It truly has. I think one of the things that you mentioned that is really important is I believe in you to answer a question before it's asked.
Yeah.
If we know that safety and fire are one of the things they're concerned about, before they even have to ask, we should let them know, here are the things we've already considered. So they have confidence that this was comprehensive. You got that message?
Already been stated again, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, then let us move on. Are there any public comments at this point? If not, we'll move on to the agenda items. We'll start with the change orders for the next.
Christopher, you're up, sir.
Thank you. We have one add change order tonight is for Reynolds for the breaching for the water heaters. This is connection for the flue and the exhaust out of the new water heaters through the roof This was originally in the mechanical contractor scope. They were incomplete. And the plumber was ready to go with all the associated work, so, and they had manpower. Really shifted the responsibility to them for this scope. Ken thought it would be, and it is a good idea to move to the plumber to do this work. And then they could continue on and finish, so we could get hot water to the sinks and all that, kind of thing. So this was a T&M, this $19,000. There was an upsize. The mechanical had started it at a 4-inch, and they found with the tanks that was gonna be too small, so the plumber used the 6-inch line, which was correct for the sizing of what they had put in there. We're gonna take this change and send it back to the mechanical contractor to recoup some of this money, because some of this was in their scope to begin with, but this was already done by Reynolds, the plumber. They're done with this work, T&M, so we thought we'd present this tonight. And that's the only change order for this evening.
As we get to the end of this, just one thing I've asked is that we review all of our change orders to identify which ones are mistakes and omissions and which ones were unavoidable, so we can fight that out at a later date.
Right.
Any questions?
Chris, do you anticipate we'll recoup all of this from the mechanical?
I don't think, when speaking about it beforehand, I don't think we'll recoup all of this, because there was an increase in the size from 4-inch to 6-inch, trying to figure out where that generated from in terms of, is that because of the tanks and the type and the system that was provided? So I don't know the value.
Sure.
It's not gonna be 100% of this value, because it was an increase in the anticipated sizing of the piping.
Thanks.
We look forward to not having to have you come anymore.
I don't take offense at that, so.
I'm glad.
He's
No
probably tired
offense
of it too.
intended. Yeah,
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
thank you. Dr. Z, the next 3 items are yours.
Right, the superintendent's report, again, normally we only have one at the second meeting, but because we have new hires tonight, we want to get our people working as soon as possible. So I am asking for approval of this one tonight.
I move we approve the superintendent's report as presented.
Second.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mr. Benigno?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mrs. Kappa?
Aye.
Mr. Gilman?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
And Mrs. Scroll.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, you guys are official.
And they'll tell you you can leave, but I'm telling you, I take names. Either way, we do look forward to having you join us. Policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome.
Policies 400 and 402 are related. They talk about employee benefits and then the waiver of employee benefits. After looking at our policies, comparing them to policies across the different districts, and even within PSBA, there is no employee benefits policy. All this really is a statement that we provide benefits, but that's found in the collective bargaining agreement. So the initial recommendation is to remove 400 and 402 from the policy list, because benefits are covered within the agreements between the employees. If the board says, no, we want to keep the policy 400, then we would delete 402 and just stick the elimination of benefits. It's more of if you read the policy, it's more of a statement than it is a policy. So our recommendation is really to delete them both. They're not needed.
Any directive? Do you want this on the consent agenda for approval or deletion?
I think deletion.
No objection to that? Okay, that's where it will show up.
Okay, we'll have them as a deletion next week, so you can vote on them then. If there are some questions during the week, please send me or me an email. Creating a new 401, creating a new position. Mostly just change job descriptions to position management guide. And the authority for creating a teaching position rests with the board based on the recommendation of the superintendent. That was added. But that was it. It's pretty much a short and sweet policy. So if there's any questions on that one, I'll entertain them now. If not, we'll bring it up for consent next week.
Silence is consent.
Science is golden. That's all I have, Madam President. Oh, no, I have one more, I'm sorry.
One more.
With the move to virtual that we discussed over the last 2 months, I've been in contact with PDE, and just to cross the Ts and dot the Is, we need to make sure that we have this submitted to PDE. This is the paperwork that I need to submit that started us virtually for the first 2 weeks at the middle school. This gets us credit for the days served.
Gotcha.
So I am asking for approval on this one tonight.
Any questions? I'll take a motion.
Do you need it for all three of these, or are they all combined into one?
It's all three combined, so I submit all three to.
We move accept it as presented.
Second.
Yep, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Town?
Aye.
Mrs. Kappa?
Aye.
Mr. Gilman?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
And Mrs. Groff?
Aye.
And Mr. Benigno?
Aye.
Sorry, switch those.
No, it really doesn't matter. The votes all count the same. Don't worry about it.
But she'll remember.
So will you, that you got the last vote.
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Beverly Flesher, the next item is yours.
Yes, it is. So this is a quick one. You know that each year we have certain properties that appeal their tax reassessment. So in 2021, Dart Container was one of the properties that appealed. And we have been kind of going back and forth with the process there. We did receive a copy of the appraisal that was used as they're going through their process. And under the recommendation of Bob Hollinger, so we had to go to Apple, Yost, and Z for these ones because of a conflict that Barley Snyder Law Firm has with a couple of the ones that appealed this particular year, that we would have actually what's called a desk review of that appraisal. So it's a little bit of a cheaper, cleaner version than having our own appraisal done. So we have in the past a number of times used Valbridge to do those appraisals for us. So they're going to take the appraisal that was presented, they'll do a desk review of it. The hourly rates in the contract, our best estimate is it's going to be somewhere around $1,000, maybe $1,200 to have it done. And then as we continue to go through the process, you know, we'll be able to pull the things out of the appraisal that we sort of want to argue against the assessment appeal. So the action that will be on consent for you next week would be to approve this agreement with Valbridge to hire them to do the desk review, and then, you know, certainly once they do it, they'll give us the documentation back and we'll go from there.
Any questions?
What's the dollar amount that they're,
So of the
of the
appeal,
taxes
I knew you were gonna.
involved?
It's a good question.
Yeah, some of
I
these
pulled it up. I
issues
should have
go
brought
back
it here with
before
me.
the current board.
Yeah, so the original value was 57,487,000. And what we are looking at is that being dropped to 52,400. If that were to happen, it would be about a $25,000 decrease in taxes, $24,000.
And that would be yearly.
Yeah, so it would be this year, and then it maintains in place. So the dollar value would actually go up as our millage rate goes up. But the assessed value would remain the same. It would just be the millage rate that would change the dollar amount, unless of course they appealed it again. And sometimes, and we're not to that point on this one, but sometimes when we settle these, we will have language in the settlement that requests that the taxpayer not come back and appeal it again for a period of time, 2 years or 3 years, or until the next reassessment, or something like that, so that we're not kind of doing this process every year.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Dr. Mann and Dr. Tozer.
Good evening. The first item is the testing instruments. Annually, we have you approve the testing instruments that we use within the district. And so this is a list of those items. Two new ones for this year, we're adding the classroom diagnostic test, the CDT, which is we're gonna be administering it in grades 6 through 8. And that's developed by PDE. So it's helping with preparing students for the Keystone exam as well as the PSSA. And then the other one that we're adding this year is the cognitive abilities test, which is a screener for gifted education at grade 2. The rest have been on the list.
Any questions?
And that's only in grade 2?
For that screener, yes.
You answered the question I would have had, is whether or not we review this regularly and update it, and evidently we do. May I ask, because it's been a while, what we now do with kindergarten and pre-K testing?
For the
That's not-
incoming, for the
That's not
screening?
included in this, right?
It's not, no. We use the, IU13 actually has a set of indicators that they put out to all of the school districts. And so our reading specialists and our math specialists, as students enroll, they come in for screening using those indicators.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Schaefer. We're emptying the table over there, aren't we?
Good evening. Reading first. Library. All right, so tonight we wanted to talk with you a little bit about what we were proposing to do for some support for our elementary emotional support classes. This year, 3 of our 4 elementary emotional support teachers are new. So that requires a bit of a different perspective on the training that we need to do and the support that we need to provide those teachers. So we don't have a lot of internal teaching support and mentoring that's available. So what we're going to be proposing is that we get more support for them to be able to have a consistent training method for all of them at the same time. And
When
so
you say new, you mean they're new to teaching or new to CV?
both,
Oh, okay.
both. Some are completely new. Some are new to CV, and then some are returning to education from doing something else.
Okay, so either way,
So-
at least 2 of those 3 definitely need mentors.
3 of the 4 are, yes. And so, sometimes when you have a strong base of teachers that you're able to, count on, that there's some peer interaction and support, we can use that. But in this case, we really want to make sure that these programs are strong and that they have a good base. And so this is what we're recommending for support for them. And so Diane Carreri is the recommended program, which is called a RESET program. And Jill was going to talk a little bit about that.
So those of you who have been on the board, you might recognize her name. Diane worked for many years with IU13, specifically consulting around PBIS, around supporting emotional support, anything classroom environment. She retired a few years ago, wrote a book about her actual process called the RESET process that she was training Lancaster and Lebanon County teachers and principals in. So she has the ability to take trauma-informed approaches and understanding what's happening with our students in emotional support classrooms regarding any potential trauma that they may have encountered. Also working with what happens in the brain when a student goes into their downstairs brain, their emotional brain, right? And how we actually use de-escalation strategies to bring that student back to, call it the upstairs brain, the thinking cerebral brain, to get re-regulated. And so this process, when we think about MTSS, this is our tier 3. We are at the most intensive support. So, last month we talked tier 1, PBIS and the SPEC contract. We're working at both ends of the system here to bring these supports. So this will be really targeted as the framework that we will be using first at elementary and then looking at how that could potentially expand. So this process could eventually come back out to a tier one for any student in any classroom who's experiencing that dysregulation.
I think that's important because so many of our kids have what we consider trauma that some people don't recognize as such. My question is, we talked earlier about the program where we're giving support to classroom teachers to how to, will this training also then give that same sort of focus to these new teachers? Because
Yes, so when we talked about that set position in terms of what our social emotional trauma, that is the K to 5 regular education, where we're
Yeah.
really working on PBIS across all the regular education. This is specific to our emotional support classes and those teachers right now in
and
elementary.
behavior adaptions for those students are different than they are the ones that are mainstream.
And this is specifically for that small group of teachers.
Yes.
Is the approach and the methodology consistent with what we're doing elsewhere? So it dovetails with what other
Dovetails,
teachers
yes.
are
Yeah.
doing and learning.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's a more intensive process for the tier 3 special education classrooms.
And it's more intensive because there's 3 teachers that are new.
I just want to say thank you for recognizing the need for this, because those emotional support teachers, especially being new, need all the support that they can get for those classrooms. So
Yes.
thanks for recognizing the need.
Teacher turnover is
noticing.
high in that area, so the more supports we can get, the earlier, the better. Yeah.
No, I agree, and I think the people that go into this work are of a different stripe than the rest of us.
So it's 50 hours of training and consultation, and that is kind of splayed out as needed, in whatever structure that they, and time that it fits their schedules and all that kind of stuff, okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you. So that will be on,
We're here for the next
that
one
contract
too.
will be approved next week. And Mr. Schaefer, item H is yours, and, both of you, again.
Yep, here we are again.
That's why you're still sitting here.
It was organized.
I realize I often wonder why we mix reviews and approvals, and I realize it was so you people
all
would be
together.
running back and forth all the time.
So it's my understanding, or our understanding, and if anyone has more information, it'd be great to hear it. We think almost 3 decades ago, Conestoga Valley entered into a conversation about character education and began the character traits that Conestoga Valley is so used to seeing for the monthly character traits. It's on, placards outside fire departments, it's outside the schools, you see it around the community. And we think it was around 25 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer.
Around 1990.
Oh, it's longer.
That's right, That's what you
I remember she and I were in PTO together when we used
Okay.
to argue about what traits should be there. That's when
Okay.
we had the man that looked like a little jigsaw puzzle.
All right.
Yeah,
Character
yes.
That's his name, Character Ed.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
So
I thought it was just broken up gingerbread man.
That's Character Ed.
So Conestoga Valley has really been very proactive in character education for a long time. And so we're looking at 3 decades of looking at character education and making that a real integral part of what Conestoga Valley stands for. And when I came here, I noticed that, on the little, what are the magnets, it said character, and that's the one I was focusing on, because I saw character, because you don't see that very often. And to realize how much of an interplay that has with everything that you do every day, it was just really nice to see. And it plays out here every day at Conestoga Valley. So here we are, 3 decades later, and we have our month character traits. A few years ago, in 2020, the district embarked on a new character education program to get more of a K-12 curriculum together. And what was chosen in 2020 was called Character Strong. And then that was implemented for the first time in 2021-22. And so this is our 2nd year of implementing K-12 character education to Character Strong. And so what we wanted to talk with you a little bit about tonight was the monthly character traits that you'll see, because they look a little different than the character traits that have been used for a number of years. So we wanted to talk about what they look like. And so that's what we have in front of you.
Yeah, so what you see in front of you, this is actually the scope and sequence right out of Character Strong. So what was coming up for us last year, K to 12, was the teachers were teaching the character traits in Character Strong, and they were just slightly off, different months, different words to describe really similar concepts. And so they were running up against, which one am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be focusing on here? And so we're proposing that we move to the sequence and the character traits listed in Character Strong, because this was a significant investment of the districts. We've spent a lot of time in professional learning with our teachers. The beginning of the school year, again, they spent time planning out resources. We have posters ordered for schools and for classrooms. And so we'd like to line this up so that we have one set of traits. And so what we would be doing is reaching out, working with Mel Upton, who works with our community partners to get the word out, the realigned traits, and look at those placards that are on fire departments and make sure that everybody in the community has the understanding of the new sequence. But we wanted you to see those first and get these descriptions. The definitions are right out of the Character Strong program. This is the language that our students are learning K to 12 in their classrooms each month.
I've always liked this. That was a sort of nationwide trend in 1990 to do this. And I know there was a lot of input from the community too. They felt very strong about, how these words were defined. My concern has been, I know it is important to establish good roots for these when children, are young, because that's where it all starts. But it seems to wane a little bit when they get older. I know there are ways to embed character education in other topics, in literature classes, in history classes, as we study historical figures. And I wonder just how much of that we really focus on doing.
There's been a significant effort the last 2 years to really look at that secondary level, because character education sometimes has the flavor of elementary.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about kindness and compassion, and you're talking about a lot of elementary concepts that you're talking with every day. Sharing your toys. You have sharing instances in the high school, but you're not talking about it the same way as you're talking about it with a kindergartner. And I think what the big difference is that the middle school and the high school took that character education with their staff, and they completely looked at all of the lessons and they embedded them in. And the high school specifically did it for a year to see how it would work in terms of how they did it every day. And they went back to Character Strong and said, this would work better for our kids in terms of how they can access lessons and how they can have conversations in classrooms. And Character Strong worked with the high school and put together something very specific for them. So we kind of need to maybe bring the high school and middle school back in to see what they say.
Yeah.
Very intentional.
I know I especially focus here on responsibility and honesty. They mean something very different to a 5th grader than they do to an 11th grader.
Yes.
Who sees the real world and has to apply these things to their life. And I just think just as it's important to give students financial literacy, I think character literacy is also really important to carry them forward. I'm not sure, I'd have to look at the profile of the CV learner to see how much it's embedded in that, but that certainly should be a part of it. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at that list. I'll have to go back. My apologies.
I
Any other
apologize
questions?
if I missed this, but are all of these characters' traits the same as they were previously, or there are now new ones with new definitions?
Correct. So they're not the same as they were previously. There are 4 that are the same.
Okay.
And then the previous ones went through the summer as well. So they had a June, July, August trait. So we're looking at the ones during the school year that we can really hone in on and deliver that explicit instruction. And then there are several that are new terms to from Character Strong, but relate to the former ones. So for example, empathy is a Character Strong trait, where tolerance and caring were CV traits. And so that, those two can really be closely correlated then with empathy. So there's a general correlation. The terminology is shifting by moving to the character strong terms.
I'd be interested in seeing the old list and the new list. I mean, I see the new list. I'd be interested in seeing the old list.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask the same question, yeah. You took the words out of my mouth, if I could
Yes.
see them both.
You don't have them memorized with all the stuff in the community? Come on.
We just had parents' night, they gave them out in every grade.
Yes.
Sue
Gotta be careful.
I'll just go home.
I'll give you our copy.
I don't.
Thank you.
I don't develop programs, but what I think would be really interesting is an opportunity for even middle school and obviously in high school to get their input on what these mean. Because we teach them, but we don't always know what happens till they're done translating it in their minds. I don't know where that opportunity would show up, but that would be interesting, almost worthy of a podcast with a bunch of high school kids discussing what honesty and gratitude and responsibility look like. I think sometimes it helps to give students an opportunity to talk things out, for the verbal learners like me. Just a thought.
And a recap would be interesting in a couple months, maybe even, just to how this is going, like a progress. What kind of change does this new focus show previously? How has it affected through all the levels of education? Just something simple, but I'd love to see hey, so we implemented this, starting with respect in September, and, bathrooms are vandalized less, I mean, whatever it is. Even though I don't remember when this came out in 1990, because I was 8 years old.
Thanks a lot. I got the message.
Yeah. I do appreciate the work that went into it, all these many years later. Appreciate that.
But you're the one we were worried about when we put it in place.
Yeah. It hasn't, I'm gonna have to memorize this list. It hasn't set yet. We'll see how that goes.
You do bring up one thing that I'm gonna add as a side note. I appreciate the thought that we'd like updates. And as board members, I think sometimes, I know I do it myself, I encourage you, whenever a program is presented, that you would like an update on, make a note of it yourself and bring it up again, in case they don't remember to come back to us, because they're busy and we're busy, but it helps to let them know, we'd be interested in an update in their programs. That way we work with staff instead of sitting here waiting for them to bring it to us.
I think the important difference with the character strong treats compared to the ones that we've had is that they almost became bulletin boards.
Yeah.
On posters outside the fire department, where this is actually being put into a curriculum every year, every month. So this is actually action words.
These aren't terribly different,
No, they're
No,
not.
no.
They're very similar.
which I couldn't pick out which ones I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know responsibility was there and I think respect always was.
And honesty and perseverance.
So we'll bring this forward next week for formal approval.
Yeah.
And there is, if you're interested, there is a section of the district website right now. If you just search character, it'll pull those right out, the current ones that
she's not
can
gonna give it to
also.
you.
We'll send the link out
Sorry,
to
don't
make
worry
sure
about it. It's all
everybody
right.
has it, yeah.
It's a nice way of saying, hey, you did
Just
it
in
for
case
yourself.
you wanted to browse
send it
this
to Phil.
evening.
For the 100 people that are watching online.
Gonna give them a handout.
Yeah, send it to me. My importance.
You need it.
You never know what kind of nuggets you're gonna dig up if you search that. In the school.
Construction updates.
Just right.
Character.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you, we appreciate that. Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes,
Pequay Valley Agreement.
yes.
This is something
Go ahead.
new.
Yeah, it is something.
It is something new.
This is something new.
I think it's one of those programs that outside of its original intention says something about CV
Yes.
and our growth here.
I think this is a good reflection of where we're getting to. So a few years ago, what it looked like was we were signing contracts to go to other school districts to send our students, and now there are other districts asking to sign contracts to come to our special education programs. And so this is one of them. So we had a student that Pequea Valley asked if they could send that student to us to program in one of our special education classrooms. And so a contract was developed with the help of some legal people and Phyllis.
Is this the first time?
So the contract that you see before you is actually one that it's the same one we have used with the other districts. So this is a place where I think we've been really smart about, as districts within the IU, sitting down and saying, we're all going to do this to each other at some point. So let's, instead of each district having their own contract and us having 16 or 15 others to review, we kind of come up with a template. And then we just know that as we share the contract back and forth and do the services, that the contract is the same across all the districts. So there are a couple of districts that use a shortened version of this that only really deals with the cost, doesn't deal with the services. This one is more of a more robust one that, again, many, for example, if you'd go back and look in board docs, Elanco, you would find we have done this contract with Manheim Township when we were sending students there. So this is the first time where we have been, somebody else is sending a student to us, but it's literally the same contract. We did actually, when Sarah mentioned legal, we ran it through Sweet Stevens, who is our special ed legal counsel, asked them, kind of showed them both the samples and said, or both templates, and said, which one would you recommend? And they recommended the more robust one because it has all the service language in it. So it was pretty easy then for us when I sent it to Pequea Valley. They went, yep, we've seen this before, and already obviously approved it and sent it over to us. So they're ready to go on their end. It's just, for you all to approve on your end.
Mark, going to your question, like just new for us it is, so I think it's a testament to the program that Sarah's helped bring in the CV for that continuity, continuum of services, that we're able to provide services for our neighbors as well.
And for the most part, the way we're calculating the cost the cost in the contract also is, if not the same, very similar from district to district. So then we don't get into debates about, are you charging me for this or that or the other thing? That piece, you're seeing the total there, but what's going in behind the scenes is similar also.
I think that's important. I don't believe schools should be competing with each other.
Correct, yeah.
I have one question. I understand for this particular classroom, it's not very likely to happen. But I know there were times when we sent students elsewhere, and part of that contract included a clause saying that if their students filled all the slots, they came first. And I just would make sure that if it was a classroom where that might happen, that we make sure that be included.
Yes. It doesn't.
That would be an uncomfortable situation.
Okay.
Sarah, I think it's fantastic that another district is now coming to CV for this. My only concern and I guess question is, do we have capacity for this?
Yes.
Right.
So this, of course, that is always the first question that we have is finding out what classroom would be necessary and then making sure that it's not a classroom that is requiring more support or is at the top of the enrollment capacity. So it's always a conversation to make sure that it's a good fit and it would be positive for everybody.
Is this student is this going to be a non-yearly thing, or are they going to just be here for a little bit? Like, is this something we're going to revisit every year with this particular student?
I imagine it will be through elementary school.
Okay.
Unless somebody moves.
Unless they move, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
But it's an annual contract.
Yeah.
Have to wait because every time I say any other questions, it takes a
No,
couple
I just-
seconds.
no,
And there's
it's
another
all
question,
staff.
which is okay, that means
We're good
people
with
are,
staffing.
We're good in
people are
school,
thinking.
We're good.
fully staffed classroom.
Any other questions?
It wouldn't necessarily be the same result for another classroom,
Understand.
but this classroom is good. This is a good one.
I'm going to
Not a
excuse
good
you-
one,
I'm
classroom, a
going to
good
excuse
decision.
you, ladies, if there are no
Yeah.
more questions. We all good?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you very much. Dr. Z, Buckskin
Yep.
Alliance.
The Buckskin Activities Alliance, there's a process where that grants are approved, there's a grant approval process. But CV holds the money, so BAA comes in and they run through the process and then they bring their approved grant forward for us, for our approval to release the monies to take care of that. So I'd like to introduce Shelley, who is here as the BAA president, and it is all yours.
I'm very new to this, so you gotta bear with me. I literally was voted on and then 5 minutes later, this was put in front of me for approval. So I am like digging and asking questions, so I may not have all of your answers. But the biggest one is we did agree. Apparently this has been in place since 2017, so through 2 other boards before me. We looked at a lot of questions of longevity. It's not just for the 25 kids that we have in the programs right now, because that was the first question I asked, how many does this affect right now? Because it is a very large grant, it's $45,000. Yes, so, it's 39,000 here on the sale, you didn't put that in there, right, the sales quote, because that wasn't in there. It's 39,000, but among talking through the forum last week, there is a $6,900 prep fee, and the original part of the grant was that our workers here would do the work, and we felt as a board, with the shorthand that we have as it is, putting something like that onto them, we also included that expense into our grant. So we are taking the prep work from our grounds people here. There's just,
And what's that final amount?
it'll be a little bit over 45,000. Here's why I can't give you an exact amount. It has to be ordered tomorrow to get.
That's why it's in action tonight.
Well, it's only 8 o'clock, we have loads of time.
I know, this 39,000 amount is only good until tomorrow, so, nothing like fast moving. But it is, to put them at the baseball field and the softball field. But we did ask that the nets come down over the winter, that proper care be taken care of them, because it is a big investment. So,
Well, then maybe I shouldn't ask if there are questions, maybe I should say there are no questions, are there?
I have some answers, but if it's a big thing, I would have to come back to you. But I've been digging and I asked a lot of questions at our meeting because it was a huge amount that they were asking for, but it's the longevity, it's needed. What's there apparently is unsafe for them to be in over a long period of time, so.
We appreciate your willingness to be that open, but historically, we have given great credibility to this board that they spend their money carefully, because they are answerable to so many parents over so many activities that they can't afford to be biased in any way. And I, for one, am willing to take their judgment. But if you have any questions, she will not answer them.
For what it's worth, we did use a school-approved vendor, so they did get many quotes over, but with COVID, things have ran out of time, so we do have a school-approved vendor that we're going with.
Questions? If not, it will be on next week's agenda.
No, we're in
Oh, tonight, that's right, tonight. Tomorrow,
have to
I'm
order
sorry,
We
I'm
almost passed out.
I'm sorry. I will right here and now entertain a motion to approve this.
Motion to approve the BAA grant application.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Dillman?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Benigno?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
And Mrs. Groff.
Aye. Thank you for all the
You're
approved
welcome.
guys.
We'll have some very happy baseball players.
The next item is the Upper Lake Conestoga Valley, East Lampeter Township Parks and Recreation Agreement. You received this a little while ago, and we had a couple early questions, but not many. But just to bring everyone up to date, this dates back to 2015 with the original agreement. In 2017, they developed a plan. In 2018, they got community input. In 2019, they took a pause. In 2020, they needed to accept the plan to close out the grant funding. In 2021, we agreed to pay a third of the grant fee. to move forward, and they are now at the part where the study is over, and the people involved would very much like to move forward and make this a reality, and it's up to us to decide what we want to do. They have given us a proposed agreement with a lot of variables and possibly a lot of things to be hashed out. They are meeting on Wednesday, and I planned on being there and then found out that the IU sometimes is the second Wednesday and sometimes the third. It turns out I can't make this one. So I'd very much like someone to be there to explain any of our concerns, or at least to get more detail. But tonight, what we need to do is decide how we move forward. So I simply open the floor to any discussion from anyone who has an opinion on this project. Oh, come on, somebody's got an opinion. I'll sit here as long as I have to.
I thought this was still an executive session.
Excuse me?
I thought this was still going to be an executive
No, this is not an
session.
executive session issue
I-
because it is
okay.
spending of money and participation.
Okay.
I simply, it was an information piece before, just to get you that. But this is a public decision.
I thought there were some things that were sensitive in our last
Oh, anything that was sensitive would have been in executive session, but for right now, we are required by law to do all of our deliberations in public. I mean, if you have an issue that you are hesitant to discuss, you have to decide how you want to handle that. I can't help you, I'm sorry.
Okay, one of my concerns that I have is now, we have to appoint one member who is sitting on the school board, but also has part B, which the school district shall also appoint, pardon me, 2 members to be on the commission who also happen to be the resident of such and such and such, so the involved townships. And that is a concern for me of getting members to be on this commission. Page 2, if anybody wants to
Well,
look
just
that up.
as a point of clarification, the document was not released to the public. It's in executive content, not in administrative content, so the public has not been able to see it.
That's because it's not a final document, it's a draft. In other words, these are suggestions that will become public when we.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it was on purpose, that was,
Yeah, no,
Okay.
It is a draft document, which for them is an internal document too, I'm sure.
yeah.
So, the general format, we can ask questions about,
Okay.
but that's only proposals. That was given to us as a proposal.
Okay.
So you are concerned that we will be able to find someone to sit on?
Yeah, like if they're requiring certain people, the amount of people and people to volunteer so that we can hold up our end of the bargain of we need 3 members or whatever. It may be to sit on their commission and attend the meetings if we can't find such personnel.
Well, I think
That is a concern.
Well, we could ask them, usually when vacancies are there, they stay vacant until the responsible parties get them filled. My first concern is the board member. Right now, we don't have anyone on this board who has stepped up to even serve on this study commission. So my question is there anyone willing to step up and serve if they go ahead and establish a commission?
I tried,
I know,
but I don't
that
have.
doesn't work.
It just didn't.
I guess I have just a general ignorance with respect to a school district's involvement in a Parks and Rec commission. So I'm even way back at the why that a school district would do that. And that just might be my ignorance, that this is very customary. But I think I need to understand the why. Why would Conestoga Valley School District be part of this commission before I would suggest moving forward with it?
It's not ignorance, it's a common question as to what extent school districts, although they always like to cooperate with other local governing bodies. And to be quite honest, this was something I brought up early on because it takes money from an educational program to a community program.
Right.
Now granted, there are kids in that community, but by the same token, what we have gotten told in the past is when I pay my taxes, I expect that money to go to the district. And when I pay my municipal taxes, I expect that to go to the services they get. So there's a place where the two are side by side, but the financing is where people often question it. They gave us a couple possible variations for what this would cost us. The two amounts are very similar. And it does not include our entire school district. West Earl, if I'm correct, did not participate. I think I would feel better if West Earl were in it too, and it was everybody, all hands on deck. But that is a personal perspective, and we have had that argument, we have had that discussed at this board on many issues that sometimes the township or another organization brings to us and wants us to participate when part of what they want is funding or assets.
Correct.
In this case, they want to with both. It's,
My view is I'm not interested
I was just gonna say, by the mood of the board, I would say.
in the proposal. It's not a district type of proposal, it's more of a township proposal. I've always thought that since day one.
yeah, when we first got into this way back, this board was never 100% behind. We always had the same discussion back then. Everybody's perspective was different. But we're at a point where they need to know if we're in or out.
Right.
If I'd vote today, I'd be out.
No.
I'd be out. I don't like that the entire CV, all the townships, they want the unity of the school district, but we can't include all the entire CV community.
Are you leaning one way or the other, Brad?
At this point, I'm out for those same reasons. That if it's representing CV school district, then it should be all the townships within that school district.
I lean towards the same too. I'm hesitant to apply budget with all the stuff that we have going on. I can't justify that.
Yeah, the dollar amount for me is, there's the benefit to CV isn't there to the district.
It's a nice idea, but I'm not for it either.
I had a lot of questions as far as control over assets and facilities and so forth. And that's where I would have liked to have had more discussion, direct discussions. But I don't know if that requires a motion to withdraw from the study or not. And do you have any idea how this is to be handled? Because the commission isn't, yes, please, I welcome you to join us.
I've served on this steering committee and was also a part of the first study, because I'm on the East St. Peter Park Board. I've been for 20 years. This is not set in stone, and this is why I asked a meeting or so ago to have representation. There's a peer recreation professional that is facilitating this agreement to come to fruition. This is not anything weird. Lane Peter Strasburg is part of the Lane Peter Strasburg Recreation Commission. Lancaster City School District is in the longest one in the state of Pennsylvania, has been a part of that. Elizabethtown is part of Gears. Manheim Township is part of their recreation. Hempfield is part of their. Ephrata, Lidditz. I mean, we are kind of an anomaly that we're not part of a recreation association. So this is not anything that is weird. It's all around us. It's just not part of us. Now, we asked West Durrell to be a part of the first study. They did not want to be a part of that. We asked West Durrell to come back into this group. They did not want to. I don't know why, but they did not want to. The township manager even offered to attend meetings on her own and was told that she wasn't allowed to. I don't know what's going on at West Durrell, so you guys can figure that out. The kids from West Durrell will still be allowed to be a part of that, of any activities that this Recreation Commission would hold. But just like Leola Pool, East Lampeter helps support Leola's pool, West Durrell doesn't. So the West Durrell people have to pay a little extra if they want to go to the pool. So this would be no different in any kind of recreation activities that this commission would help coordinate. The school district, we're hoping that this will take some of the pressure off of the school district for all your facilities. There's very little programming, recreation programs that happens in the parks around here. It all happens here in the school district. So if there was a recreation professional that could help organize activities in the parks, there might be a lot less, and this would be for all ages too, not just school kids. We're talking, doing things with adults, seniors, programming. It's will be very, hopefully, the way this would work is DCNR, which is the Department of Natural Conservation Resources, would pay for, there'd be another grant process after this. They would pay the first year 100% of the salary of a recreation professional. And then the next year it would go down to 75, the next year 50, the last year would be 25. And in the fifth year, hopefully the programs will be, there'll be enough revenue generated that things will be self-sustaining. I mean, that's the goal. This is the Department of Natural Conservation Resources have done these programs all throughout the state. So that's why they have a peer review, a peer consultant with us. They do it all the time. This is not, we're not doing anything that hasn't been done all over Pennsylvania for a long, long time. We're really behind the curve in a lot of this. So, the goal is that this would be, the revenue and the programming would generate revenues that in 5 years, a lot of this would be, self-sustaining too. So there's still a lot of decisions to be made in the next 4 months. The grant for this peer consultant runs out in December. So nothing's set in stone yet, and that's why we would like to have somebody from the school board. Phyllis has been to almost every meeting. I think you've been to all the meetings, and Dina Henry has been to a few too, but we haven't had a board rep. I mean, the township managers have been there, and that's why we would like you not to make any decisions, but we would like you to be a part of the process so we can hash out, we haven't decided what in-kind services are going to count for. There's a lot of decisions to be made yet, and we're really at crunch time in the next 4 meetings together, September, October, November, and December, to have this hashed out.
I have a lot of questions about if we were not in this and the township simply formed a Parks Commission, wouldn't that relieve the pressure for us anyhow? If they organized, scheduling for what facilities they have.
But there wouldn't be any
And I know
coordination
there's
with the
more,
district.
I know there's more to it, it's not that simple. I'm really familiar with this type of thing. My husband was a founding member of the Manheim Township Parks Commission. And many of these started because there was a very generous pool of money available when it was focused, when it was formed. We don't have that here, and they're trying to build that, I understand. It scares me a little that this is probably at least the 3rd try I'm familiar with, possibly more, to get a parks or recreation organization.
The first time it's ever been
Well,
done.
okay, some sort of recreation. Now, Lancaster County Parks and Rec once approached us to try to start a commission here. CV, what was it called?
CVCC, the
Yeah.
Conestoga Valley Community
The
Center.
community center was a similar, type of thing. I don't know if we get community support. I'm really concerned, as you are, that there is no one on this board focused on the recreational part of it. So, I imagine you would like us very much to have someone there to have a good long talk with the rest of the commission.
Again, nothing's been decided yet. We're still in the process of pulling this agreement together.
I cannot make this month's meeting.
When is the meeting again?
It's Wednesday from 6 to 8 at the Upper Lake Hawk Township Building.
Will that,
And we really do end right at 8 o'clock.
When
yeah, we
is
have the
our
principal thing
assistant
Thursday.
principal?
We have assistant principal Wednesday night.
Excuse
No,
me?
it's Thursday.
Oh, is that Thursday?
That's Thursday.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even, my opinion is, even if we still send somebody, the price tag, it's still not gonna affect my opinion on the price of it, and that's just how I feel about it, that's just where I'm at.
I
And the
guess
fact-
what I'm trying to do is to at least make an effort to make sure we understand what we're accepting or rejecting, even if the reason is the cost. Okay? If this board wants to decide right now that they want to not go forward with work with that commission, we can do that, whatever you want is what we'll do. I'm trying to make all those options open to us, to gather more information, to get more questions asked, or to say, no, there is no alternative that I'd be comfortable with, just where you are. So my question again is there anyone willing to spend some time to do that, and is the board willing to have that done? Or do you want to make a decision now? I have to have some feedback, folks, I can't do this by myself.
I can't commit to another meeting.
Yeah.
That's what it
So
comes down to.
I think we should just make the decision now if the board's willing to, and just move from there. That's my opinion. Anybody?
If anybody's willing to commit to the meeting, I mean, otherwise then,
Right,
If we're not going to be there, we withdraw by default.
and since we have crickets, I think.
Yeah, I won't be able to make one.
That would put a motion on, I think. I have to think that out if it requires a motion to decide to notify them that we're withdrawing.
Can you make a motion if we do pass or deny, however we decide to do that, and we didn't need, is that gonna cause an issue, or what?
Say that again?
Say we do make a motion, right? But that motion wasn't needed, is that going to cause an issue? So if we do one and it's not gonna, so,
Technically, with a meeting happening Wednesday, you can make a motion now. We can put it off until next week. I'm at your mercy, folks, however you want to handle this.
I move that we withdraw from the agreement.
Can I ask one question?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
No, that's okay. Questions after the motion are actually more appropriate than questions before, so don't apologize.
So, I'm in the same situation as Diane. I simply can't commit to another meeting or committee. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in knowing more, but I simply can't do it, and therefore I'm not gonna ask anybody else to do it for me. But I guess the question is, if the meeting were not this Wednesday, would that change anybody's willingness to go? So perhaps we
Yeah,
have
there's a difference between I'm not interested in this program and I can't make this program. You know everybody's hesitant to do this in front of you, aren't you, Mrs. Tyson?
I'm not.
Let's be frank, she's been such a supporter.
I made my voice clear. I am not interested in the program, but I will say it.
So you're gonna second it?
Is there a motion?
I made it, yeah.
You made the motion, I'll second the motion. You
I don't know if we can,
want a motion again?
no, my
Okay.
problem is we are under a new set of laws about motions that are not agenda.
Correct.
Oh,
Now, if this is considered de minimis and it does not involve us spending money, it may fall under an acceptable motion. But it's a brand new law and it's hardly tested, so I'm not really sure where we stand. Would we be more comfortable with doing it next week?
I would.
Okay.
We could add
Okay,
this
then I would
in.
move the
All right.
motion, I'll draw the motion,
We could add
sorry.
it as an
Are we done
agenda
with
item next week.
Okay. I don't, making unnecessary motions never harm us, but passing a motion,
Say to me, you need a decision tonight.
and it has to be a positive, you can't make a negative motion, so you can't make a motion not to do something, you
I
have
see
to
what
make a
you're saying.
motion to actually do something, and so it is withdraw from the,
Oh,
that's why
by
I
not
said-
making a motion, you're withdrawing automatically.
No, as long as the motion is positive, which is how he stated it,
Yeah.
it's a legitimate motion, okay, I
Her
have to accept
concern
the
is,
motion.
can it be or can it not be?
Okay, so you withdraw your motion, so.
Okay, withdraw,
Back to-
and we'll put it on next week's agenda, with consideration for whatever, how the new laws are applied. That law just passed, last fall?
Sounds good.
Fine.
Didn't wanna
Okay.
stir the pot.
Okay.
Is there anybody, since Diana's here, is anybody gonna attend on Wednesday?
Physically can't be.
I was planning to, because I wanted the opportunity to talk to them face to face. I thought we owed them that much. But I can't, I have to.
I would have, but Wednesday nights are out for me, unfortunately. I can't do that. And that, my concern is, I don't wanna waste their time.
Right.
Cause even if two of us are like, okay, like we'd be willing to hear more, that's 2 out of 9. It
I'd
still
also
wouldn't be
be
enough interest to generate anything. If it's easier for you guys, just for us to bow out and you can move forward and do what you have to do and make your decisions and stuff, and then maybe it's pitched again at a later date. I don't know how well that works, I don't have enough information.
Yeah.
But I don't wanna cause us an extra stumbling block for, especially you specifically, because you've been so supportive of CB. But if it's easier for us at this point to be like, there's not enough interest, so for your sake, let's move on.
I think there's not enough board interest, but I think there's interest in the community.
Okay, gotcha.
We've gotten a lot of, we sent out a questionnaire in July to businesses and organizations, and we got over 300 responses, which is kind of crazy from a QR code.
May I ask one question, just for information, because I always think you need to understand what you're doing. Early on, they required us to be part of it, or they couldn't have gotten the grant.
No, the district agreed to be
As
a
Mr.
part of the
Hutchinson
study.
originally promoted this to us, was they needed our name on it, because I was asking them if the original agreement back in 2015, we had a financial lock on it, and he said no.
Right.
But we do need CV to be part of this, to, have a acceptable group to go for grants, so we agreed to put our name to it. My question here is, if we end up withdrawing participation or membership, I shouldn't say participate, membership, does that stop the organization from continuing its work?
I will have to find that out on Wednesday.
I'd appreciate that, because I think, even if we do withdraw, I think we owe it to ourselves to understand what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm all about like learning more about it, but again, it's just not.
Yeah, not your thing, I understand. So,
I mean, the template was used from local like.
yeah, I noticed there's a lot of variation in there, and a lot of
towns
things that I'm not sure how they would have worked. But I wasn't going to spend board time going into that detail, but I would have had to have gotten it from the proposed commission that's together, so. And we'll just go forward a little carefully, but it will be on next week's agenda. So if anyone needs information, I'm sure they can get in touch with anyone at the township or Mrs. Tyson to make you comfortable with whatever it is we're going to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? That moves us on to reviewing the agenda for next week. Any questions on that? We just added a big one. Are there any other public members who would like to address the board?
There's one in the back.
Yes, please. We no longer require to state your name, I'm sorry, your address, but would you come forward and make sure we have your name? And you are a district resident?
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you sat down. We'd like you to be comfortable.
Thank you.
But it's difficult.
No, we don't understand.
No, it's difficult for some people. We always welcome them to sit and be
Okay,
comfortable.
cool. All right, yeah, my
and
name
your
is Charles
name?
Sensenig.
I'm sorry.
Charles Sensenig.
Yes.
I live at 2077 Creek Hill Road, even though you didn't need that. But I'm actually here on behalf of my son, who is a high school student. and a new driver. He brought home the parking permit form the other day and asked why he has to pay $75 to park at school. So I said, that's a good question. I'll try and find out. So I emailed Phil. Phil recommended that I check with the administration, so I did that. And it seemed that I should circle back here to the board for that. So did a little bit of research, found out that CV charges $75, Hempfield 60, Townships 50, Penn Manors 40, Garden Spot 30, Dr. Erica Calico, Warwick are 25, LS is 20, Ephrata is 0, and CTC is 25 as well. So I said, I don't know. I said, I'll bring it up and ask why we're paying $75 to park. So.
Okay.
Yes.
You do understand this is not a town hall, so we're not going to get into this discussion,
That's fine.
okay?
Would it be some-
But that's
would-
not because we're ignoring you.
No, I understand.
If you'll make sure that we have your contact information, we will have someone get back to you to explain to you the process for how that was approved or not approved. I'm not even sure I remember ever approving that. I don't know.
That it's been, and again, I have to look at.
Yeah,
when it
we
first
need to
started.
check into it ourselves because, you know, but
That
we will get back to you and we appreciate you showing
Okay.
your concern. But you will hear from us and we will discuss it at whatever level we have to, okay?
Would that be Dr. Mann?
Yes.
Since the gentleman came to the meeting, it'd be nice to give him a face to talk with. Would that be Dr. Mann?
Well, he'll
Or
get
would
in
that be
touch with
Ben's
you.
office?
I don't know who it will be, but
Okay.
they will get in touch with you,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
So
I gave
if you'll
him
make
Dr.
sure
Mann
that.
and Mike Smith's information when he emailed me to reach out to them.
Oh, okay.
And you did?
I did, yes.
And it was a black hole?
No, they gave, actually, Dr. Smith came back and provided some additional information as far as some of these schools cost. And then from there, it was, I understood it to be, it's a school board issue, so.
We'll check and decide just who makes this decision and we will get back to you, okay?
Okay.
And if it's us, we can decide if we want to revisit it.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you, I
you.
appreciate that. Anyone else who would like to address the board?
Can I just add something? I'm a teacher here.
Well,
and when you were
are you a resident?
no, but I was gonna say that the program that they're talking about, Character Strong, is really good. The multimedia stuff.
I appreciate that, but staff input is under a whole different set of rules.
All right, sorry.
No, that's okay, I always admire anyone interested enough to speak up. Board initiatives. Anyone have something they want the board to consider? I only have one, that's policy 802. As soon as we open the middle school, we will be in violation of our own policy, which addresses grade configuration. So I think we should move that up and.
That's a good idea.
It's been taken care of through PDE, we'll make sure we take care of it here.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other issues, I will accept a motion to adjourn to executive session for, I think, only legal reasons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any objections? We are adjourned.
I love it.